show us your tits phrase on a wood sign.
Okay, so you spent the afternoon.
It was a hard-earned sign. And
I bet it was.
It was.
Hey, everybody, I'm Kevin McLaughlin, and this is the Riffs
In Rhythms podcast. I'm Paul Robertson. So we are back. I think we're episode 23.
23. 23. We've done this 23 times.
23andMe. So we find out what Kevin's true DNA and what his past is through 23andMe. And if we find out that he's not Irish, he's got some splaining to do.
I
right?
am as Irish as you can get without being born on the Emerald Isle itself.
So, you know, it's always, I always tell everybody, I said, this is the funnest I have, you know, each week, every time we get together on Tuesday is hanging out with you, being stupid, and silly. But, you know, we also spending a good time hanging out with fellow musicians also, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we've got to, again, I'm just, it's so cool that we've got some awesome guests. We've got some banger of guests back to back. You know, Fonda was, you know, a few weeks back. We just recently had Jake Walden on. Great stories that he shared with us. And I know this guest that you brought in tonight.
Yeah, this guy's a heavyweight.
Oh, this guy is going to be banger. I'm sure he's going to have some stories. I've spent a little bit of time with him. I won't get too much into it. Hanging out with him, learning, you know, meeting him for the first time in Memphis.
Yeah, we lived together for a short time.
That's right. I shared a room with him, so that's all that happened, I think, you know, but we'll leave it there. But yeah, let's welcome to the podcast, Lefty Hathaway. How you doing, Lefty?
Really good.
Thanks
for having me, guys.
So yeah.
And special guests.
That's right, yeah.
Special guests.
Is this your crew? Is this your posse?
These are my two clones. We got Junior and Junior over here.
You starting your own stormtrooper army?
That's right. See if we can do it right this time.
There you go. Yeah. So, well, hey, thanks for coming on, Lefty. So, like we said, you know, I met you, again, it's always, we were talking before we started taping, was how everybody meets everybody. There's always a 7 degrees of separation kind of thing, you know. I met you through Kevin, you know, Kevin met, you know, you via this, and we'll talk about that, you know, or Brad, you know, Brad Brock's name, his name always comes up in our podcast. What's up with that?
Well, it's all those payments that come in.
That's right. So thank you for keeping your checks coming, Brad, there for supporting the podcast by saying your name. So yeah, shout out there to JNC Podcaster. Check them out also. So good friend of ours, Brad there. So yeah. Okay. So how'd the story start? Now, you said when you talk to Jake that usually your best stories are meeting somebody on stage.
Yeah. And then my second favorite place to meet someone is at rehearsal.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
You rehearse?
As a general rule, no. But certain projects are complex and require extra practice.
We're not going to start the debate about rehearsing versus practice, right?
Now, when I play under my own name, it's clear that we didn't rehearse, and it's okay. It's part of the deal.
Because you're in charge.
I think I officially shook your hand in rehearsal.
Right.
The first time.
Yeah.
But we had shared stages prior to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. So yeah, I mean to sit down and I'm like, I don't know about this guy. Like he just runs in late and starts bashing on the keyboard and making all excuses and then he starts singing and I'm like, oh, okay.
I'm not sure about the late thing because he was the first one here tonight.
Yeah,
I know. I think that's worn off. I don't know what happened.
I was gonna say I'm generally places before you are, Mr. Kevin.
Well, maybe it's me that's the late one. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I'm the person they tell an event is an hour earlier than it is, but they tell you 2 hours for sure.
My daughter definitely does that to me.
No. Yeah. No, we met at Terra Firmata, I believe.
Yeah.
First time.
Yeah.
How long ago? How long ago?
2 years.
Was it 2 years?
2 years ago or so.
Was it an open jam or just?
I think it was at the Thursday Night Blues Jam.
Yeah,
perhaps.
It was. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so we met on stage, and as you do in those type of jams, in our tight-knit music community, you know people from online, you know people from seeing them on bills. With social media these days, you recognize their face. I think that was how it was for me. I said, hey, I recognize this guy, Kevin. And
The post office.
Yeah, just
Were you
come from the post office.
it was a milk carton.
Oh,
We finally found
you're still
him.
looking for him?
We finally found him. Yeah, so
maybe a bottle of Jack Daniels. Maybe I believe that. Maybe instead of a milk carton.
yeah. Do
That
they
was probably on the list on this tow truck company.
Check,
repo
do not
list.
take checks from these people.
Yeah. Do they do that on Jack Daniels bottles? Missing people?
Yeah, right. Well, that's when they stopped
I don't know,
drinking.
the bottle's
Yeah.
way too small for that. That giant list. Have a QR code on there. Right?
Yeah, so Terra Firmata, yeah, that's we've talked about this in a couple other episodes where, the famed and a lot of great musicians that come through there, cool, funky place, just right down to the heart of Stewart, and it's so the Blues Jam. You said you met up, right?
I believe so.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that
So-
sounds right.
So this then obviously predated then, or was the start of?
No, actually, it was in person first at Terra Firmata, and then we actually got to know each other at rehearsal.
Right.
Yeah.
For Brothers After All.
Okay,
For our Allman Brothers tribute.
got it. Okay.
And that's been going on, I think, our first rehearsal was maybe 18 months ago.
Has it been that long? Oh my gosh!
I
It only
believe
feels
so.
like 2 years.
Was it my house?
No, it was at Mitch's house the first time we rehearsed
Okay.
together. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
So-
about 18 months.
So Brothers After All again. So if you don't know Brothers After All, let's hit pause there before we go too far into it. Let's talk about the band. Right? Is Brothers After All is an Allman tribute band. So if you don't know,
It's everyone's favorite Allman Brothers
that's
tribute
right.
act.
That's right.
He's
So-
our hype guy,
That's
Kevin,
right.
here. He does a good job.
Yeah.
He was rocking that cowboy hat. I saw them recently down in Boca at Crazy Uncle Mike's, and
Yeah, they got some good footage of that, actually. They
Yeah.
recorded it quite well.
and that's because I saw that of the venue. I said, do I want to come all the way down to Boca, or they shared the link that said, or you can just watch online. It's like, oh, I can just sit at home and not no. But I came down and supported the band. I know you.
Well, I think the thing that put you over the top was I got you in for free.
That's right. But I did guilt my buddy into buying a shirt. So
Oh, there we go. All right, cool.
Yeah.
So there, see that lost leader.
There you go. Yeah. But yeah, that was a really cool event. There's obviously the band. If you're fans of the Allman Brothers, it was a really good show.
Thank you.
I love the fact that the band that you're standing up in front of is a rhythm band. I just want to go on record and say that it is a rhythm
really
band.
is.
2 drummers, a
Redundant
percussionist.
rhythm.
There's 3 guitars, so that's a tie. But Lefty cast a winning vote with percussion.
Absolutely.
Oh, because it's a piano. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
I
well.
do play a percussion instrument. Let us
Yes,
not
you do.
forget it.
Yes, piano, but you didn't have a real piano, so it doesn't count as percussion. But yeah, redundant
yeah.
rhythm. In case one passes out, we have a spare drummer.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, so if one keels over there, so
We have a spare drummer.
yeah, I gotta get Lechavo on the show. I gotta get him on the Drums and Rum show, or even on this.
Oh,
one.
there you go, yeah.
because I want to talk to him about that because that's always fascinated for me. Was I'm still learning in a lot of music that is many years old. Like the Allman Brothers. I'm a late comer to the Allman Brothers, right? Because I just did not grow up in the South, and just always amazed by. Yeah, you've got 2 drummers, how's that work out? And I know a lot of big bands and other things have multiple drummers, but the Allman Brothers, I was like, this is great. You keep drummers, employed.
But let's not let the conversation go too far before we recognize the fact that one of the most difficult voices to cop in Southern rock and rock as a whole is Greg Allman. And here we have a guy who does it and does a great job.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, no, it was like I said. We were talking about before the show. Guy I work with and played the video clip of you singing. He's like, "Wow." It's like, yeah. I said, I hadn't seen you play before, and I hadn't actually seen other than you performing in Memphis, right? Chance to hear you sing. I know you've got some stuff you want to talk about too, some of your own stuff. But yeah, you got a great voice, Lefty.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Paul.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
So,
Greg Allman is actually the reason I even picked up my instrument in the first place. So,
Really?
yeah, interestingly enough, because I am a drummer, and was until I was about 17 or so, and I decided, I don't know if you've ever tried, Paul, to play the drums and sing. It's incredibly difficult, and I've been singing since I was maybe 3 or 4 years old, and so I wanted a vehicle that could help me sing, and I went and saw the Allman Brothers, and I believe, it was a weird bill. It was like Stone Temple Pilots opening up for Stone Temple Pilots, Big Head Todd and the Monsters, opening up for Allman Brothers during their Where It All Begins tour. So 1995 in Oklahoma City. And I just saw Greg Allman up there, and I was like, I want that guy's job. And I'd already known the Allman Brothers really well. And so I figured I would switch from drums to keyboards. So, but yeah, he's by far, to me, the premium blues singer out of the jam, Southern band, rock era. Absolutely. It's a pleasure to
I agree.
try to sing his songs the best I can.
Yeah, and that's kind of interesting. Is I wouldn't now. So the singing part, okay, I can see. How did you go from the instrument part to where you're at now?
Well, okay, so in all fairness, I'd been playing a piano since I was maybe 5 or 6, but it was the type of thing I was just trying to emulate. My grandmother, who was in England, was a radio broadcast pianist, and so she would, this is in the late 30s and 40s, she would do the commercials. She'd be the one who plays the piano on the radio. I wanted to show off to her when I was a little kid, and also I felt like I had inherited the music bug from her. Not many other people in my family had it, and so any chance I could show off in front of her when she visited, I'd learn a couple things on the piano. So I had been playing for a long time, but sparingly. So I transitioned from drums to piano pretty easily. I did it myself. I wasn't taking lessons, but I would play, records, and actually at the time, I guess, tapes, and just play along with them on the piano until I figured out what chords were, what theory was, and all that.
So definitely you're not to say you're old or your age, but describing pre-YouTube, like a lot of people today get a chance to see how to learn songs on YouTube and so forth. It's still listening by ear, the tape, or like you said, right, the CD or whatnot.
Oh yeah, I come from the generation of start and stop to write down a line of lyrics, on a piece of paper. So yeah, I mean, I basically was, if I wanted to learn something constructively, that's what I was doing. I had a recorder right next to me, or next to my instrument, and play a little bit, figure it out, pause, write it down.
Okay.
Same type of thing. Yeah.
That's pretty. So are you originally from England? Yeah.
I was born and raised in England. I moved to Oklahoma when I was 12 years old. And
that is an interesting landing point.
Yeah, it is. It was definitely a culture shock. Yeah, there's not much similar between Tulsa, Oklahoma, and London, England.
I believe you.
Yeah. So mixed roots, I guess you'd say.
Okay.
But yeah, my family moved here. We lived in Seattle, Washington a bit before that as well. My family's not in the military or anything like that. My dad just happens to work in the aeronautical industry.
Okay.
So
yeah,
Boeing,
right.
yeah,
okay.
all over the place.
So that's pretty. Yeah, it's always the and again, I know I still am slacking on some of my editing and video production of some of the documenting of the trip, right? And I'll have to show you after the show. It was the meet the band, right? Remember we did the interviews and so forth, right? So it's definitely kind of interesting to hear you and the guys talk about certain how you got into music or what the blues means to you. And I remember you telling the story a little bit about when you were younger and you started very young in music, and to get into that. So yeah, but I think that's kind of an interesting thing is why I asked the question about the instrument was you didn't make the full leap. You saw Greg, and you didn't full switch to guitar. I think is where I was thinking was like you wanted to sing. You saw him. He's like, yeah, I want to be like that guy. But you didn't also abandon the instrument you currently had, or at least had played previously. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then also, I think one nice thing with especially the rock and jazz organ is there's a lot of sweeping blanket playing, so you can really hold on to a chord for 4 bars and give yourself a chance to express yourself vocally. And it's a different type of rhythm. So I'm the type of guy who, growing up in class, tapping on the desk all the time, I just put that on a keyboard and play the drums on the keyboard.
I think piano keys is probably the best
instrument ever. I agree.
All right, I didn't say that, but somebody.
A lot of people feel that way.
I think it's a great. I mean, again, for those that again, I know a lot of our viewers and listeners are musicians, so they get it. But for those that don't, it's a great instrument too. As you said, Lefty, right? It comes from the percussion family, but you have chord structure like a guitar. So if you play, you can. It's a great gateway to go either way with it, right?
Yeah, so especially when you get into New Orleans jazz or New Orleans music and New Orleans jazz, boogie woogie, New Orleans rock, and if you take it from Professor Longhair, who's basically the godfather of that music, when you're playing, your left hand is basically playing the drums and the bass line, boom da bop, boom da bo bop, and then on your right hand you're playing a more steady pattern like a guitar would, like guitar changes. So you can actually play a full song just on the piano.
Okay, so he's the perfect person to ask. Is it the riff or the rhythm? Is it the left or the right?
It's the rhythm.
You
hashtag we coined that, right? We're getting on the shirt. We're copyrighting that, trademarking it, and everything. That's
the riff.
He's the perfect. He's like the perfect guest. He
look at that.
My publicist will be in touch.
Yeah. So
No,
yeah,
I honestly, I think, it's kind of like, boys, close your ears. It's kind of like a woman. There are men who like certain attributes,
things, right? Yeah,
down south or up top, and I don't think either of them outperform the other. But when you are able to observe a specimen that has amazing both, that's when you're kind of blown back. Being like,
I think that was the thing, was watching you guys perform, right? Who's your slide guy?
Pete Quigley. He's a monster.
Watching you all guys, right? And this is what sucks. Sorry, Mike, and your drummer and your percussion guy. They're in the back, and but yeah, just watching you guys kind of go back and forth, or you guys are trading off a little bit, and Pete's doing the slides, and I was like, yeah, you've got to see these guys. It's just a great show, energy, vibe, total awesome vibe. But in like you said, watching you sit there and play, and like I said, I watched you in Memphis play, and you damned that Hammond the first night, that you destroyed it for no others to touch.
I did.
Yeah, they retired it for the rest of the
retired it after I was done. Hefty Lefty.
It had nothing left after you.
We're like, what happened? Something looks different on the stage tonight. It's like, oh, there's no.
Yeah.
Unfair advantage had to be taken away.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, but I think that's kind of an interesting thing. Watching again, like it's always amazing for me because I don't understand enough. Is piano keys players that playing different keys and the Hammond organ. What can anybody say about the Hammond? That just, it's like
It's an instrument of unique all to itself. Like there's a whole bunch of Hammond stuff that doesn't translate to any other instrument, right?
Well, yeah, especially overtones and harmonies and the drawbars. And then, yeah, if you ever get a chance to look up the front face of a Hammond organ, you'll see a lot of drawbars and buttons that are very unique in their own. The organ is played very similar to the slide guitar. You know, it's waves and it's overtones, and it's not how many keys you're actually pressing on the keyboard. It's kind of a mix of tone. It has a lot to do with tone, and then of course you have your cabinet that's spinning, your rotary, your Leslie cabinet, and controlling the speed of that is, essentially the vibrato. But there's a lot of stuff you can do, a lot of bells and whistles on that instrument.
All right.
Yeah.
So you moved to the U.S., moved to Oklahoma, saw the influenced by the Allman Brothers, the mid '90s ish. Now you mentioned right that is actually a bizarre lineup, unless was supposed to be an eclectic. Again, the mid '90s is not Kevin's favorite period of time because there was no
guitar solos,
right? So,
right,
for the the bands that came out during that time, right? And but at this time, how did you toured with a very well known musician, right?
Right.
So you were telling me this story a little bit in Memphis. So how did that come about?
With Leon Russell, yeah.
Right?
That's right. And that was really just I happened to be from the origin of where most of his band members are from. Leon's from Tulsa, Oklahoma. He was living out in Nashville, and my old guitar player, who I was on the road with and for years, and had actually been playing music with him since I was 15. His tour manager, Ben Easley, connected with me, and essentially they needed a replacement, and I happened to be a Tulsa boy. So, and the tour manager knew that we'd get along on the road. So it so happened that two guys I went to high school with were in Leon's band, and then plus the tour manager. So I was kind of a natural fit.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
It pays to know people.
It pays to know people. Exactly. I think in the entertainment industry, the arts, networking is key. That's why it's important, if for young up and comers to put themselves around the right people. Yeah.
And like you said, the tour manager said, all right, this is a guy that's not going to be annoying or a problem, and that's half of it, right? You always say about bands, right? Yes, skills and ability is up there, but if you're a douche, right, you don't
want to be stuck in the bus with someone you can't get along with.
Yeah.
Look, I went up and down the West Coast with this gentleman in a 1-ton van for about 4 years, where there's about 6 of us in a van, with a queen size bed in the back, and we put a Nintendo and a small fridge in there, and we would have gigs. We'd have 3 days between gigs and be out in Northern California, and if you can live with someone like that and you can get through a while, then you're good to go. You're compatible, because the road life is not it's not for everybody. Let's put
definitely
it that way.
Describing that is definitely an unpleasant smelling one either, I'm sure, in that van.
No, not at all. No, there's a lot of rules that go into living in a van, and even a tour bus, when it comes to smells. Yeah, that you try to prevent.
There's no number 2, right?
There's no number 2s. Yeah.
Although, black water tank technology has come a long way, it's still taboo.
Yeah.
You just don't do it.
Is that where that line in that song comes from? Black hold water, keep on trucking, don't do number 2 in the RV.
That's exactly where it came from.
Okay, I figured that. Right, yeah.
Yeah, well, and also things like nicotine gum, for smokers doesn't really do the trick, but even those kind of smells can be pungent and gross. So it's good for a tour bus to remain as pristine as possible, you know.
Yeah.
So, and also, you know, along those lines, choose who you go on the road with, because seeing your musical hero and an icon, you know, come out at 8 a.m. in his boxers, and I mean, you see sides of people you don't necessarily want to see.
Well, Lefty, I don't mean to say, you know, embarrass you, but you are not my musical hero, so I was okay seeing you in your boxers in Memphis.
Yeah, you probably saw a lot. I was really happy to be there. So
I know that was the room, right? We had the bomb diggity room, man.
You guys were upstairs where all the heat rose.
That's
to.
right. Well, because
didn't
we're
it-
hot. Because we're hot, man. That's why, man.
Yeah, didn't it have a neon pink sign that said party or something?
Yeah.
It was something obnoxious like that.
That's right.
All right.
And I think we both had the talk.
Yeah.
Look, one of us might need to sleep on the couch. There's a lot of pretty ladies in Memphis.
That's
But
well, there's always that. That's kind of goes unsaid.
yeah, it's true.
I'll just leave it. We're just gonna leave it there. If whether or not I slept on the couch or not, okay, we'll just leave it there.
Did we already do a Tales from the Road?
No,
No, this is a perfect segue. We're talking about road stuff. Like,
Yeah.
you have some
Yeah.
interesting stories from the road, no doubt.
I have a lot of
All
interesting
right,
stories
let's
from the
hear
road.
the tales from the road.
Okay, I didn't really think of one, but let me think of one that's interesting.
So let me give you a little impromptu promo.
Okay.
Lefty Hathaway's Tale from the Road. Dun dun.
Oh, here's a good one. So, again, when you're on the road, you have a lot of time. As you know, as a musician, Kevin, you know, you hang out during the day, wait for load in, sound check, show at 8 o'clock at night or whatever. There's a lot of time to burn. And especially summer tours, vehicles get hot. Any chance you get outside, whatever. We found me and my drummer, Ryan Newberry, we called him Pooh. We found this wooden sign, and we spent a whole afternoon with a pocket knife writing a very eloquent phrase on the sign. And by the end of the day, we had a wonderful show us your tits phrase on a wood sign.
Okay, so you spent the afternoon.
It was a hard-earned sign. And
I bet it was.
it was. And we got carried away. We went to the craft store, got some paints.
Oh, you had a lot of time in your hands.
wow.
Then.
Yeah. Our tour manager at the time was kind of a greenhorn. So I'm just saying, you know, greenhorn tour managers, sometimes you end up with 3 days, you know, between gigs and stuff like that. And this was out in, I believe, Amarillo, Texas. And I think the next show was in Lubbock, Texas. And so we were driving on 40 out to Lubbock, Texas, and me and my drummer were like, all right, let's break the sign out. And we were actually able to basically, like a butterfly net, just drag several people throughout the road that day to our show in Lubbock. It was an amazing, it was just craftsmanship, it was ingenuity, and a little bit of charm. And by the end of the day, going from Amarillo to Lubbock, we had basically gypsied up a whole crew of people, especially of the female variety, to come to our show. And that night ended up with a line on stage of all the people we had picked up. And essentially the point is that they fulfilled our
Signage request?
signage requests
Oh, wow.
on stage in Lubbock, Texas.
Nice. That sounds
And
like quite the show.
It was about 24,
No
by
kidding.
the way. Yeah.
24.
Yeah, 48. if you catch my drift. Yeah. Yeah. So, and it being Texas, it happened to be.
Is everything big in Texas?
Well, it happened to be of the wet fabric variety.
Ah, okay. Gotcha.
And
There was T-shirts involved.
there were T-shirts involved. And as a 24-year-old traveling musician, that was a dream come true, obviously, as a single 24-year-old man. So when you ask me Tales of the Road, I think that is that's a blue ribbon day,
Well, right. I did not just say what particular tale from the road.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. But of course, those are the ones that stick. I mean, you could go there, or I prefer to remember the pleasant times.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, hey, that's so the questions I've got from that story, okay, is do you still have the sign?
Yes.
And are you busting it out for any future shows coming up?
No, that's in the Hall of Fame, memorabilia memory.
If you still have it, we will be proud to display it in the studio here.
Yeah, but it's less fun when they're watching it on YouTube at home, and we don't get it's not very interactive that way.
Well, I have a white T-shirt in the car, Kevin, and
for $20, $20 is $20.
No, that was a pervy story, but as I said, you remember the good experiences.
Yeah.
Just like in a romantic relationship or anything, like when things are all said and done, the brain remembers the good stuff.
Yeah, that's that.
It's better that way.
It's it like you said, it was a point in your life, fun story. You're single, no harm really,
Not at all.
things. Yeah, you remember some of those little things that back and say.
I will never forget the image of a line, because I was a singer at the time, and so it kind of like moved towards me. The line was moving towards me,
Nice.
and it was kind of it was like I was the inspector, Yeah,
Very cool.
yeah, one after another.
So, kids, if you want to be in music, become the singer.
No, clearly we're all into music for the music.
Yeah, sure.
That's like the same reason I go to Bike Week for the motorcycles.
Right.
And that's
right.
it.
Of course. I think the majority of musicians are in it for the music, but I think there are a lot of personalities out there that'll like attention,
Yeah.
and
You're performers. We're performers, right?
Right.
Right. So
Right.
yeah, we're always on. We're always up to something, or hijinks, or like I said, idle hands will. When you got downtime, you're going to get a little bit into trouble, right? And
Right.
But I think even for podcasting, a lot of people that do podcasting with video, there's a little bit of performance aspect of it, right? And even for myself, and playing drums and doing a live stream show that I used to do, I was missing out on performing for a
Yeah.
live audience, right? So yeah, it's we're performers. We're trying to entertain, right? So yeah, so you're.
I've been showing off since I was 4 years old, and I don't know if it's my family moved around so much. I mean, there were periods where I lived in a place for 2 or 3 years and then moved to a new one when I was a kid. And so, especially when it's different cultures that you're moving into and you're the oddball. If you guys watch South Park, I was kind of like the Pip in South Park, the little British kid.
At that point,
In
you probably
Oklahoma.
had a straight up hardcore British accent.
I had an accent. But I think also musicians, or if you're musically inclined, you pick up accents from your surroundings a lot. So
Yeah.
I lived in Georgia for 9 years, and I have a little bit more of an accent like that now than I did when I lived in Oklahoma, England.
Well, when you say Oklahoma, you sound like an Okie.
Right. But My point was I've been showing off since I was like 4 years old. My mom was putting me in musicals. That was actually my real performance outlet. And by the way, now I can't stand musicals, and when I hear them, I kind of cringe. It's a little like Clockwork Orange, it's after the rehabilitation,
Right.
But I did a lot of musicals, and I was in a TV show in England when I was like 9. I like showing off, and that's part of the reason I like to perform, is because I like to show off. And the other part of it is artistry, but it's true, and I've been doing it my whole life. So
Speaking of artistry, you just put something out, right?
I did.
So tell us about that.
I just released my first track in 10 years. So it's been
Wow.
10 years since the last time
Shax came out 10 years ago?
Yeah. And the last CD 12 years ago, Kevin.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So basically, I took a hiatus to raise my boys from about 2014 until last year. And so in February, I released a single, Monkeys on Parade. And it's out on all the all 9 outlets. It's the first time I've done an independent release, and so I'm learning as I go.
A lot to learn with that. It's complex.
So much to learn.
They keep all that information so secret and hard to find out.
Oh man, and like publishing and getting the copyright, publishing, writer and publisher, all that stuff. It's been a lot of information to learn. But my plan is I have about 15 more songs that I've completed, not in the studio, but completed arrangement and composition. I'm going to do that for the next 2 years independently, and play shows around the Southeast to support it. And so Monkeys on Parade is something that we recorded here up in Port St. Lucie, and have some great players on it. And I plan on the next 15 tracks on tracking to get musicians from the community to be part of. Kevin's going to be on one out of the next 15 for sure.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's kind of important to me to be part of the community that I'm around, and especially on an independent release format, to have these releases be part of the community.
Cool.
So Monkeys on Parade, you can go check out on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon. Just look up Lefty Hathaway.
I've heard it. It's a good song, actually.
Thank you.
I like that one.
So are you willing to have it reviewed by us?
Absolutely.
In person?
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
So
Well, we're running short on time, though. We got to come. Maybe we should ask him to come back next week.
I think we do. So you can come back next week?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Okay. Bring
All
the
right.
kids, too, right?
So real quick, though.
Of course.
All right, good.
What do you
So-
boys think? Yeah, that's a yes.
Yes, that's a yes.
So real quick before we wrap up here, so we do we try to do our MVP, somebody who's kind of went above and beyond, somebody you want to recognize, say, hey man, this person was great, they did this or that. Who is your MVP? That you've got to want to shout out there, recognize.
I got to give a shout out to a local promotion mogul here on the Treasure Coast. Al Beltran of Treasure Coast Live. Yeah, absolutely.
No question. Al is awesome.
Al is, we've done a couple of shows. I know Brothers After All worked with him recently up at the Causeway in Fort Pierce. And he really...
That was a great show.
Yeah, I had a great time. He also, I did last month, I did the Mardi Gras Lefty Hathaway Band's Dr. John tribute at Terra Firmata, and, it kind of fell apart 3 weeks prior to the show, and he picked it up and rocked it. And I got to give him a shout because he really wants the best for the community, and he's willing to work for the community instead of try to line his pockets. And in this industry, that's a rare bird. So shout out to him.
Yeah, shout out to Al, because he's everywhere. His energy.
Al's
Fantastic.
great. I got a
He's
great
just-
Al Beltran story when we have time. Remind me.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So-
Next week.
So
right?
very, very,
there you go.
So very good. So yeah, so we'll tune in next week. We're going to review Lefty's song and talk about, some of the other stuff that we got going on here and upcoming shows. What do you got coming up here, like the second week of March time frame?
March is kind of a downtime because I'm working on releasing the second track.
Okay.
That'll come out in March. The only shows I have 3 shows in March. 2 are actually solo shows. They're all 3 at Terra Firmata.
Okay.
So I have 2 individual shows or solo shows where I'm going to get up and play my originals plus covers of people I love, and it's just me on the piano or the organ or my Fender Rhodes. And then I'm playing at the end of this month on the 27th with Joe Marcinek and Dave Watts from the Motet and Ola Timothy and Jennifer Jones. We're playing at Terra Firmata. It's kind of Joe Marcinek's thing. We all get together, and he's the director of the night, and he tells us what to do, and we just funk it out. So we're doing that at Terra Firmata on the 27th.
Cool. Very cool, man. All right. So
Awesome.
So check it out there. So definitely thanks for tuning in to this episode of podcast. We're going to have Lefty on back next week. We're going to review his new song, Monkeys on Parade. And
Great.
So what are we doing? Let's wrap it up.
Well, hey. Hi, I'm Kevin, and welcome to the end of our podcast. This is the Riffs and
Rhythms Podcast. And I'm Paul. And this is an awesome podcast episode. So have a great night. Cheers, y'all.